Hello, everyone. This is Jim Okrasinski with lecture video number 4. I don't know about you, but I have to say that there's been at least a couple of mornings that we dodged a bullet with the weather here in the spring semester. Maybe two, maybe even three, where some bad weather moved in and caused some really tough travel. So in that respect, I'm pretty glad we're working from home. But at the same time, I do miss traveling to school. And after about 3 to 4 weeks now, uh, being home, online teaching 100% is certainly not fun, and I'm sure it's not fun for you guys either. So I hope everybody is staying safe and everything's well with you and your family. So now on to the lecture video. Friday, the 17th is when the first draft and the peer review report are due. This is a 2 link upload for the first draft. So let me get over to the course units, right, and to chapter 4. I'm not going to review the whole assignment. The introducing the first draft assignment is up. Please go over the numbered bullet points here. It is important that you are aware and ensure that all of that is in your first draft. So we're looking for a lengthy, almost a full-length draft with your works cited page and all of the normal conventions of an essay. All right. So as you see here, your first submit your first draft here. So I'm looking for the first draft link and the peer report, right? So 2 links in the text box there, and then as we move through the peer process, the 2 peer reviews will be uploaded right below. All right. So remember now, and I can refer you back to the syllabus. Any documents that are sitting in the draft folder, all right, in your essay folder here that are not uploaded, the links are not uploaded, are just going to get a 0 until you upload those links. So um, make sure that when you complete your activity here in a Drive folder and you have your documents in there for everybody to access your first draft and your peer review report, make sure that you head over to Blackboard. The assignments are open. Just upload those links. That way I have an official submission of your work to Blackboard where all grading happens. All right. So just to go over a few more of the elements and strategies offered in Chapter 4. I do believe I went through the organizational structures, the delayed thesis, which is the exploring aspect of the topic, or the question and claim, which is the thesis driven traditional style of the research essay. I believe I covered those in last week's lecture video, or possibly even the week before that. I know it's out there in the announcements page. All the lecture videos are there. But I never did get to the rest of chapter 4. So as you come together to write your first drafts, you have to give readers a sense of purpose throughout the essay. The strong lead establishes that purpose. So let me interject about exercise 4.3. A lot of really good leads, a lot of really good openings, and you were pretty much everybody was focused on one. Well, work with that one opening, elaborate, develop, revise it a little bit as you prepare to put that into your first draft. If you are arguing and you have some sort of a thesis, solid thesis you want to propose, you want to make sure you get that thesis added at the end of your opening paragraph. Even if you're exploring, you want to create some sort of statement of purpose, kind of indicating to the reader where you're going and what you're doing over the course of your research essay. Okay? So you always want to circle back, examining the relevance of each source to your question or thesis. So in the organizational structure, if you're just exploring, please be aware that the research essay here, the first draft, is not a glorified annotated bibliography where you're just going to present your required 6 sources, one right after the other. There needs to be some integration. Okay, there needs to be, you present your information and you discuss it. Right? I don't want it to be a summary of all your sources. So it's not an expanded annotated bibliography. It is a research essay using the information from your sources to construct your essay, your research essay. All right. So let's get that out of the way right away. Now, the chapter also talks about working common ground. So, what are my readers' own experience with the topic? I'm sure a lot of you have got something relevant to each other. You should remember we talked in the very beginning of the semester about writing across, that you are all your audiences, right? You're writing across. You're not writing up to me, right? Is there some way that my paper that I can help them see that it's relevant to them? So I'm sure a lot of your topics really is kind of the reason I created the theme was is that a lot of this is relevant to each other. You're all in that Gen Z. You're all experience something about all of the topics that are out there in this particular course. So the next question is, how can I help them see what they may already know? So how can you re-explain or reinterpret, right? Deciding whether to say I, you're making your presence felt, right? When a writer stops pretending that the text talks instead of the author and he actually enters into the text, there's a greater likelihood of a genuine conversation happening. So this is, we have conversations with authors. We have authors are people. Articles are not people, okay? This article says, I don't think an article talks. So my overriding emphasis on this is to engage in a conversation. I want to emphasize working with authors. That's why in the beginning and through the research days, I always I stress using authored pieces because it's easier to integrate authors' thoughts into your research essay, right? So you want to control quotation, find your own way of saying things, find your own way of seeing things, seize opportunities to comment, evaluate, relate, define, interpret, establish significance. All of these are parts of the academic writing process, and I'll get to the weave in a little bit. How do you control quotation? No block quotations in these. I will comment on that. I am looking for quotations to be either paraphrase. You can paraphrase a large one. You can extract the important information. If you're using want to use a large quote, then break it up into two parts. First part, talk about it, and then go back into the second part and reinterpret it or reevaluate it. Break up those quotations. MLA has strict guidelines for how large quotations should be in text. Anything over, I believe, 4 lines should be blocked. Me saying that there is no blocking of text requires you to break up those quotations, right? So there's a section there where you're putting people on the page, and there's a quote from E.B. White said that in order to write about humankind, you should write about a human. So figure out how your topics attach to people, right? How do they affect people? I asked the so what and who cares questions. Or what does it got what does your topic have to do with society? What's the impact? And more so, what is the impact on people? That's the who cares type thing. For example, I think there's might be a example in a textbook about deforestation in the Amazon, where the voices of the Indians, whose way of life is threatened, is always important there to get that perspective. You can present all the statistical information. However, you're doing a lot of telling and reporting. So how do you bring people in? Talk about those indigenous Indians in the Amazon that their lives are threatened, right? So that's one way of putting people in the page. Writing a strong ending. Okay, write an ending that adds something that tells the reader what they already know. Avoid the repetition. In this essay I covered. No, I read that. The reader read that. How can you conclude something impactful, right? Here it says avoid ending that begins with in conclusion. Rhetorically, if you have to move to that in the first draft, that's fine, but make some sort of a signal, okay, about how you're getting into the conclusion. Avoid endings that don't feel like endings, that just trail off. Be sure to add a conclusion there, right? Emphasize what's less known about the topic. That may be surprising. Answers the who cares questions, which is all about people, right? Is what I mentioned earlier. So the weave. The key to academic writing with sources and the voices of others is to take the information from your research, whether it's reading, interviews, observations, and experience, And sometimes you have to imagine each source is a different color, and we'll get to that activity a little bit later in chapter 5. But you want to weave your sources. You want to go back and forth between what they say to what you say, right? You want to analyze, interpret, clarify, claim, question, inference, etc. You always want to get your commentary in. Source information, write your lead ins, like I talked about in using and citing sources. Lead into your speakers, then work off of your quotes and your information into your interpretation or your commentary, right? And then if that brings up another part from another source, you can also weave that into the same paragraph structure, right? So the idea here is you can go back and forth as long as your paragraphs are focused. Topic sentences leading into your source material to begin the conversation, and then transition into the next paragraph. So this is the weave that's covered in chapter 4. Next week I will be talking about revision in chapter 5. Good luck on your drafts. If you have any questions, please send me an email. Once again, you want to make sure you have your draft, first draft, your peer review report in your folder. You have to create a folder. I also have the peer review report here for the first draft. It's all ready to go. Just make sure that you rename it up here, right? You want to rename it before you start working in it. That way it basically preserves a copy for the rest of the class. Drop that into your folder along with your first draft. Hopefully your exercise 4.3 information is there. All right, your peer review report for 4.3 and 4.3. So all of your source material is in one place. All right, so once again, if you have any questions, send me an email. Good luck and stay safe.